All right, so this video is going to be just about flipping our sentinel so he looks at Gambit correctly. So let's jump into it. We're first going to start with our enemy site variable. So let's go into enemy site here. And we got some, I don't know how to say that. We got some new variables we need to make. So let's say public bool player on right. This will be a flag that tells our enemy controller what side Gambit's going to be on. Is he going to be on the right? True. Is he going to be on the left? And then that'll be false. And then we're going to make a public vector3 variable. And we're going to call this player relative position. This vector3 is going to tell us exactly what side he is on in relationship to the enemy here. So really simple stuff here. We're going to go to our update here. And we're going to add some new lines of code. We're going to now define what player relative position is by saying player relative position. And we're looking for a vector3 value here. And it's just going to be a simple subtraction statement here. I'm having really trouble typing position today. It's kind of embarrassing. And then game object transform. I did it. I did position without messing up. I'm the best. All right. So what this line of code is saying, our player's relative position is going to be equal to the player's position minus our enemy's position. Game objects points back to the enemy object we're currently working on. And then why don't we say, why don't we look and see what that code does before we go into the conditional statements. I'll hit play. I want to select my sentinel here. And now we have a relative position variable right here. And as I move Gambit here, pay attention to the X value here. When I'm on the right side, X is positive. And when I go on the left side of our sentinel, X is negative. And it never fails. Right side is positive. Left side is a negative X value. So right there and then, right here with our player relative position variable, we can tell what side Gambit's on according to the value of X here. But that's a little hard to digest, a little bit hard to use in code. So why don't we add some logic here so we can just say, okay, is the player on the right or left, yes or no? So we're just going to make some conditional statements here. We're going to say if player relative position dot x, remember we're trying to get at that x is greater than 0, then let's say player and site equals, what does this say? If x is less than 0, then we must be, no, we don't want player in site. We want player on right, and that'll be false. If our x value is in the negatives, then that means player on the right. Note player's on the left, so that'll be false. And then let's do an else if player relative position dot x. If that's greater than 0, meaning if we're on the right side, player on right will equal true. So let's hit Control S so we can save it. And why don't we test this before we go any further? We'll hit play. So now we should have a new Boolean player on right. But wait, do I have it backwards? Yeah, I must have had it backwards. So backwards logic meaning I just need to go in and change my greater than or less than signs. Like so. That's right. I just got confused. I'm the best teacher in the world. All right, so that should solve the problem here. Now it should work. You probably caught that when I was making the mistake and yelling at your computer screen. All right, so Gambit is on the left side of my enemy right now. I don't want to trigger that animation quite yet. So Gambit is on the left side of my enemy. That means his relative X position is negative. And is he on the right side? No. Unchecked means false. As he gets closer to my sentinel, then he breaks the threshold into the positive X, and now my player is on the right side of the enemy. So with this Boolean now working correctly, we can access it in our walk script and we can now control the flip depending on where our player is in relation to our enemy. So we're going to cheat real quick. We're going to go back to our Gambit controller script, and we're going to go all the way to the bottom here, and we're going to copy and paste this flip function that we made earlier. So we're going to go to enemy walk, and make sure you put it within the right brackets. And there's our void flip. Immediately we see an error here. Well, we don't have a facing right variable, so I guess we should put that in. So let's say public bool facing right. Hit Control S. So now that we have our flip function inside of our walk script, now we need to drive the flip. And that's going to be pretty easy. We're going to go into update here. Let's give ourselves some breathing room. We're going to make another conditional statement. We're going to say if enemy site, we're accessing our enemy site script up here. And we want to get at that player on right variable that we were working so hard for equals true. And then we're going to do an ampersand. And facing right is true. Then flip potato chip. Else if enemy site dot player on right equals false. Ampersand, because both these conditional statements must be true. The ampersand says this must be true and this must be true for it to work. So if player on the right side is false and we are not facing right, flip. Very similar to the code we had for our Gambit controller script. If I go back up, very similar to what we had here. It's just instead of move horizontal, we're now basing it off of our player on the right Boolean. We'll hit Control S, and hopefully I have this right, but if not, it's just a simple fix. We'll hit play. There we go. Notice how our sentinel immediately changed his position. Perfect. So now we're getting our sentinel facing our Gambit ever so correctly. And I believe that does it for this video. We're just trying to get that flip to work. Perfect. Oh, I've been stuck. I've been caught. All right. So the next video, we're going to refine how our sentinel, if we look here in our scene view here, I'll minimize some stuff. We're going to refine how our sentinel moves to our player. Because right now, he's kind of just sliding in and just getting way too up on him. We don't want our enemy directly on top of our player. We want him, somewhere right here, right in front of our player. Or if he's going to have a sneak attack, we want to have him right behind our player. And that'll be a few simple changes we'll make to our 2 lines of code here, enemy walk and sight. So next video, we're going to hit that up.